Hello, this is John with Theology, and I hope you're all doing really, really well. Um, I've been wanting to post for a long time, super busy in life. This has been one of the most difficult few months I've been through in a long time as far as just one thing after another. So I'm sorry for the delays, and I know I keep trying to get back to it. It's just been very hard, a lot of work. But uh, I think we have to get back into it here, or at least I feel like I need to, on account of some of the stuff that's going on and where we're at. We are on the eve of a important annular eclipse, the October 2nd annular eclipse, which of course will happen tomorrow. Today's October 1st. And this is an Easter Island eclipse. You know, this it'll be visible over Easter Island, and we get hints of that in IPG2 that there's some Easter Island connection. Somehow you know see these little images around IPG2 at times that clearly look like the Easter Island heads, uh, and this date of the eclipse is important due to its connections with a few things. In particular, Donnie Darko, October 2nd is the beginning of the tangent universe when Donnie enters the unstable tangent universe in that film, which is very important and rich in predictive programming. It is also this year in 2024. This is the year of the dragon in the Chinese calendar. 1988 in Donnie Darko, that was the year of the dragon as well. 1988 was the year of the dragon, and this is this year as well. So that was an October 2nd, year of the dragon eclipse, which we have this year. That's represented there. And I'll get into that later. We're going to look into Donnie Darko. We're going to look at Leave the World Behind. We're going to look at White Noise a bit. And we are going to get into IPG2. And what we're going to look at is the significance of this period beginning tomorrow and that we're currently in as well, I should say, and what the predictive programming in these various productions point to as far as where we're headed. And I think we're getting very, very close to some of the more significant events in the predictive programming. So let's go ahead and take a look. A quick review. Here's the calendar, classroom calendar from IPG2 2020 calendar. We looked at it a lot of times, and we had, you know, Trump appearing here. We have the lockdowns in China beginning in January with the barbed wire around January and the yin-yang symbol indicated there, suggesting something Chinese. And then out of Trump in March, which was the month, Trump representing March, here in the calendar, came the lockdowns for the rest of the West, right? Where you had the World Health Organization on March 11th declaring the pandemic, and then the lockdowns coming out and being very intense in April, which is why April was all scratched up, and then having periods of greater intensity after the 4th of July, around the 4th of July, and then in December again, and so on. Okay. And we had the June 21st, 2020 annual eclipse, which was very, very important as part of the ritual events leading from the age of Pisces, the fish here on the left, to the age of Aquarius, with the carrier, water carrier, whatever on the right, and the symbol being that the moon, the apple representing the moon, eclipsing, and then the girl, eclipsing the sun in an annular way with the ring of fire around her here, and then Sirius off to the side, lining up with August, which is when Sirius emerges again after the dog days of summer, when Sirius is the second sun in the sky with the sun. And so we have the symbol here that, as I'll show later, is associated with, in the predictive programming, not literally, portals and time travel and connections over different times. And I think it's important to note that I think what the idea here is that what was going on ritually on June 21st, 2020 for them was something that was going to be connected to a later event that sort of closes the door, connects to it historically. And I think that's pointing possibly to the eclipse we'll see tomorrow, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But let's go ahead and look into why. We have here, of course, Trump. Again, this is a different angle, but this time we have Trump with the antlers over his head from the wall. So he is representing the buck. Here's the buck rabbit. And we've talked about this. The shot was taken at the Buck Rabbit, and I even had a video back in 2020 on the deep state taking a failed assassination attempt at Trump, who I put the antlers on his head in the thumbnail because he's representing the buck, and the shot being, the target right off to the side of the Buck Rabbit, and coming in July. And of course, what ended up happening is not that year, but July 13th, 2024, we had the shot taken at Trump's right ear, just like the shot here was taken at the right ear of the rabbit, which represented Trump, the Buck Rabbit. Okay, which I think is suggesting, first off, that we have a possibility that this calendar, 2020, not just a possibility, I think it's almost certain, I think it's very likely, this is the 2020 calendar. However, we have on the back wall here an indication for 2024 that we're seeing the divide, which starts from April with the April 8th eclipse. We have a little time of peace after April 8th eclipse. The DIV divide until the shot is taken at Trump, at which point we start to see the introduction of more political violence and chaos. We've already seen another assassination attempt on Trump where the guy was waiting to shoot him. We've seen the headlines where they've talked about possible explosives, which they found out weren't there, but there was, right, we're getting more political violence rhetoric, more in the news, real or alleged real attempts in the news, and so on. And we're getting this, and you get the chaos off to the side. I think what we're seeing here is another representation of 2024, and really picking up right here, especially with the shot. That's the giveaway that we're in it, because what ends up happening after that? See, there's your divide. Okay, it's like this is like the dot on the I almost. If you go here, and right after that, the moon representing Apple rolls away, separates from the eclipse, and what comes out of that buck moon, okay, the buck moon, the July moon is called the buck moon, also represented there. What comes out of the buck moon? A lotus, which is what the name Kamala means, and that would mean out of the buck moon comes the lotus. This is further confirmation that 2024 is being hinted at here as well, or being pointed to here, because the full moon will arrive on the buck moon in 2024 on July 21st. When did Biden drop out of the race and Kamala sort of step in? July 21st. Okay, and so we have out of the buck moon coming Kamala in 2024, and he is frightened because now you're getting close. When we start getting to this period, we're getting very close, and we go outside the classroom, and we're going to see doomsday time. We're going to see the troubled, Psalm 23 written on the wall in graffiti, which also has the name Donald in it. There's other symbolism in there, lots of it. But the lightning, which split the brain in the classroom on the wall back here, fires out. We're getting the division again, and the Psalm 23, which is still waters, is what it famously refers to. The Lord leads us beside still waters, but it's not still at all. It's troubled waters here, the graffiti. And so this is difficult times probably for Christians and so on coming. But you see, as we leave, we see the burning house that comes from, I think, the shot at the POTUS ear. And I'll show you why in a second. So the divided burning house coming from these assassination attempts and the rise of political violence in the year of the dragon. We see the dragon over here. Now, why do I say this is related to the shooting? Look closely. It's like a target on the POTUS right ear. There it is again. See, watch it. There he goes. The fire comes out of the shot at the right ear. Here we have when he transitions into Biden's right ear also. I say Biden. When he transitions into Obama's right ear. Hope I haven't said Biden the whole time so far. But Obama's right ear is near the target as well. It's a shot taken at the ear to miss him. He positions himself as Trump. Look, the hands and the legs separated, just like Trump sits. And we're going to see a transition here, which is fascinating because we see Trump back here. Watch the transition from the two scenes. Okay, let's see, did I layer these? I click there. I can't. I didn't. But okay. I thought I did. Let's see. Whatever. I have this scene. Look. So here it is. Put your marker right on his hands. I'm going to leave my cursor on there. Hand to hand. See, Obama's hands are directly over where Trump's hands are because we're seeing the continued transition from one president to the next. We got the transition from Bush to Obama, Obama to Trump hands to Trump hand. Okay, and so we get the continued transition. The shot is taken at POTUS, which is representing, because of the timing of the shot, Trump. Okay, now, and it is interesting just to note that even back in 2020, when Biden selected Harris to be his running mate, it was on August 11th, which was the day that Sirius is supposed to appear again after the dog days of summer. Okay, so it's like the new year, if you want to think of it that way, in terms of the year judged by Sirius reemerging. In Egypt, they used to deal with that, I think, as I recall. But just another noteworthy connection that these are all related. But anyways, so now what we see, I'll add one more thing. Here we had, remember this doorway was pink, and the lighting at night related to the pink supermoon of April 7th, 2020. I think that suggests that starting here at the divide in the 2024 calendar, that's going to be related to April. If April 7th goes up to there, this is April 8th and following. That's the 2024 April eclipse that everybody's making a big deal about, and they're all wondering why didn't anything happen right away. And people are complaining, saying that's stupid. You guys are all nuts because you think it was going to happen on April 8th, which I never said it was going to happen on April 8th. Anything possible, but I don't think anything usually happens that way because the eclipses in their superstition cover the period after them. Well, anyways, here we have the April 8th, 2024 total eclipse would be marked at the beginning of the divide, going to the split, the shot being one of the big markers of the change, and then we go into the descent, which happens in the second half of 2024, including the emergence of the lotus flower out of the buck moon on July 21st, 2024. Okay, which is Kamala Harris. Now we go on. This leads up to the election. I want to point out some of the stuff here. We have the chaos. We see October being a mess. This collision at the end of October, we'll talk a little bit about there. Here we see another symbol of Damascus. Okay, what we have in here is the conflict represented by, this is the Israel, Palestine, Levant sort of area, the land, if you look at it, the gap. And if that's the case, if you go look at a map, you will see Damascus is right here. This could suggest that the conflict in the Middle East is going to escalate this December, which is not that shocking, this October, not that shocking, given that we just saw Israel today or yesterday invade Lebanon. We're seeing strikes in Beirut. We saw strikes today in a headline in Damascus. And at some point, other countries are either going to stop Israel or try to stop Israel and wage a war against Israel, or Israel is clearly now on the offensive and not stopping. They will continue to go until someone tries to stop them, I suspect. And so we are headed into possibly an intense period that gets very destructive in the next couple months. Okay, but we'll see. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I'm just telling you what I think the predictive programming seems to be pointing to. And the more detail we get as time passes, the better picture, the clearer the picture becomes of what they're doing. So it helps us to understand this. And it's amazing that it all aligns so consistently and so well. So anyways, that's what we have so far, the acceleration of this from July to November. That doesn't mean everything happens here, incidentally. And we'll talk about, as I get into Leave the World Behind a little later, we're going to see that it goes beyond this. Excuse me. I have a cough. Let's keep going. What's coming? I think possibly from Leave the World Behind, we're going to see this three-stage maneuver to topple the government. It's the most cost-effective way to destabilize a country George said, G.H. Scott said, if target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would do the work for you. Whoever started this wants us to finish it, meaning that the cabal, he said, doesn't exist probably. He actually believes exists. There's someone starting this, planning this, and bringing this about in order to bring self-destruction in the United States. They want to create isolation, disable communication and transportation, according to the film, make a target deaf, dumb, etc. Synchronized chaos, terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation. Without a clear enemy, people will turn on each other, a coup d'etat, and civil war and collapse. Okay, so that may be where the United States is headed. We'll see. Now, let's look at our calendar so far. If we include now this July 13th shot at Trump in the calendar, okay, after the April 8th, 2024 eclipse, I think we could almost put that divide right up here, starting with April 8th and going beyond, this being almost like the midpoint. All right, what we then get is a picture where we're at, and this October 2nd eclipse is going to come in after it, because here we have the November 5th election, the 5th of November, remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes and his companions did the scheme contrive to blow the king and parliament all up alive. 70 barrels laid low to prove old England's overthrow. But by God's providence him they catch, with a dark lantern, lighting a match, a stick and a stake, for the King James' sake. If you won't give me one, I'll take two, the better for me, and the worse for you. A rope to hang the Pope, a pennorth of cheese to choke him, a pint of beer to wash it down, and so on. Okay, so we have a contrived attack on political state government, king and parliament, and an attack on the papacy, which we've seen in predictive programming in IPG2, the two targets being sort of Western political power, the U.S. in particular, and the Roman Catholic Church at some point. So the two sides of the Whore of Babylon as represented in IPG2. So there we have that. And if we look here, nope, not that scene, this one. Okay, here we have, I put in this October 2nd, 2024 eclipse in that timeline. And I think it's related to the June 21st eclipse we go through. And remember, it's like a portal, an entrance and an exit, a time-traveling event where whatever's happening here ritually is actually going to be done here. And there was a chance it was the October 14th. I think it was. I mean, the war started in October when Israel and Hamas, that conflict began. Okay, and we started to see Israel go on the offensive at that point. Here, it is, I think, probably going to continue and accelerate, but we're going to see this as a more important eclipse, I suspect. Okay, so this is just a reminder of all these symbols of this eclipse. Okay, we have the annular eclipse with the dot, the annular eclipse with the dot, the annular eclipse with the dot, the eclipse on his cheek with the dot, the yin yang representing the eclipse with the dot, the little sun on the outside, and the to be swallowed up by the sun. Okay, then you have the dog star barking and her shadow representing the eclipse. We have Donnie Darko leans in front of the lamp with the dog star symbol, the Eye of Horus up there, and so on. You get it throughout in Candyland as well. You have the buck moon in front of the ring of fire and her jewelry, and all these details we've gone into in other videos in the past at length. So I'm not going to get into it right this second, but we will review Donnie Darko because that is very relevant, given that tomorrow is, I believe, the Donnie Darko eclipse, the October 2nd, 2024 Year of the Dragon eclipse, just like the 1988 October 2nd symbolism going on right here. This is October 2nd, 1988 in the film, and Donnie's going to wake up, lean over in front of the light. That is an October 2nd Year of the Dragon eclipse. Now, I skipped into a white noise. There was a reason for it. So we had, maybe I should, let me see. Should I skip and go back to Donnie? I'll do this really quick because it's important. In white noise, we also get the eclipse pointing to this same period of time. And I'll show you this. Remember this scene or this on the calendar from June 21st to October 14th, that was actually derived from white noise, that arrow. That's how I got that. And that arrow could just as well apply to October 2nd, 2024. In white noise, what you have is an event that happens, this train crash, this toxic train crash in Ohio, which in real life, I believe, as I remember, was East Palestine. Ohio was the place it was filmed. Okay, it was an event that did not have, well, that was toxic and terrible and all of this, but it came and passed and was sort of forgotten about. But one of the symptoms was a sense of deja vu. It was like a simulated event, but not a simulation. And that it was actually pointing to a future event that would happen. Because in the sense of deja vu, later on somebody's going to see it happen in real life, and it's going to be like it happened before. And so I think what was going on is it was pointing to an event in real Palestine, some event over in the Middle East with the war. And so we get the scene while they're waiting, and Jack, as I recall, boy, it's been a while since I've watched this, I forget their names, but he is in front of the, it may not be, but he isn't going to get in front, he's going to eclipse the Japanese flag, the sun, which is what that represents, as he positions himself, or the camera moves him in front of it, and then we see the reflection, and we see the eclipse with the dot again. Okay, that is where we're at. We're seeing this a new, and that's, you see the symbolism. If that's a reflection of it, then there's an initial one as well behind him, as it were, because that's a reflection. And so the June 21st, 2020 eclipse and the October eclipse that came afterwards, either 2023 or 2024, which would be tomorrow, would be the reflection eclipse when we return from this other side. Wherever they started back in 2021 or 2020. All right, so back to Donnie Darko, where we see that the eclipse, black hole sun with the portal, the wormhole, eyes in Rosen Bridge. Okay, we see that as a representation of time travel in the conversation between Donnie's teacher and Donnie. And so that's how we got that. But notice I say, well, maybe it's not primarily pointing to October 14th, 2023, but the October 2nd, 2024. In which case, this seems to be correct, what we did. It's pointing to, in February 3rd, 2023, train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, just like the film. Ohio, less coverage than expected. Evacuations, people returned as if nothing happened. Not the main event. The main event maybe comes war in Palestine begins at the same time as the annular eclipse governing the final period before the April 8th, 2004 eclipse, or more likely, given, I think, context and what we've seen already happen, even primarily pointing to October 2nd, 2024, acceleration of the crisis leading to an election catastrophe. I think what we're looking at here is the Donnie Darko period. So let's look at Donnie Darko. Here's the Donnie Darko clock. Okay, we've seen that. That's, a little plug of the shirt we've got here that I made. That we have a Brace Yourselves Re-Entering Primary Universe shirt, and that comes from Donnie Darko. Let's see the Donnie Darko clock on there, and also the Leave the World Behind 11:16 time, which also appeals to Donnie Darko and points to this election. And I'll explain that when we get there one more time. But anyways, and I'll put that in the description if you want to get that. But we have the Donnie Darko right after we see the clock. We go to the screen, and where we get the October 2nd, 1988. And he hears "Wake Up." And he wakes up to an eclipse, okay, represented by the eye. The eye opens, dilates, and then we get the rabbit in it. What's the rabbit? That's the buck moon again, eclipsing the sun. It's a black hole sun being represented by the eye in the eclipse. That's just like the Candyman, the buck in the Ring of Fire, that jewelry she was wearing, or any other place. We're seeing the symbolism representing the buck moon eclipse. That points to, I think, the June 21st, 2020 eclipse still. And here it is. See, there she is. She's wearing that jewelry. Same thing. Buck rabbit, buck in the deer species or whatever. And so there we go. And we get that symbolism again. The union of the two male and female principal, the eclipse, with the one looking over the eye looking over the shoulder. Here they are again, and the reflection. The Candyman is appearing in the reflection to the side. Then the lights go out in Donnie Darko. Light goes on, excuse me. And he wakes up, and here we get the eclipse represented by him. He's going to lean over in front of it with the eye overlooking, the eye of Horus overlooking, represented. And as he gets up to walk out, we see the swan song records with the American flag. Now we have entered the end of the United States period. We are at the very last period. This is associated with this eclipse, this annular eclipse, which is probably pointing to the October 2nd eclipse. This is where it starts, really takes off. So this is the Swan Song records from Led Zeppelin Swan Song records. See it? You flip it over, it's upside down there. There's the wings. Okay. It's the same thing in the United States. So we're looking at Swan Song, and this is also represented in IPG2, with the annular eclipse being the red light represents solar light, not lunar. And this, in IPG2, and this is a shadow that is smaller than the size of the thing, so it's the sun. So it's going to be an annular eclipse, and he is doing his ritual work. And here we see the swan. Okay, we're getting the Swan Song, which is the metaphorical phrase for a final gesture, effort, or performance given just before death or retirement. The phrase retire refers to an ancient belief that swans sing a beautiful song just before their death. So, okay, it's a swan song. Now he is going to walk out, Donnie. This is back to Darko. He's coming out, Donnie Darko. He's coming out. It's being watched. And as he enters, we hear the Star-Spangled Banner sung through white noise on TV as if fading away. It's the end of the night. You got white noise. And you can barely hear the Star-Spangled, but it's clearly the Star-Spangled Banner. This is representing, again, what we saw in his ceiling, in his room, the Swan Song of the United States. It's fading away. White Noise, the film, explicitly talks about death as, what if it's like white noise? Death and white noise are associated. This is the death of the United States, a fading away death. Okay? And he pauses there so they can hear it, and the rockets are glared, the bombs bursting in air. Perhaps a way to point to violence, conflict, war. And he turns the corner. I'm not going to get too much into this. I don't know if I would be reading too much into it. But there are a couple places where he crosses in front of lamps. He eclipses here a lamp. Again, so possibly pointing to some other eclipse, but I'm not going to speculate. Not sure. I know whatever this is, it's pointing, the beginning one is pointing to the June 21st, 2020 eclipse, coupled with the, I think, the October 2nd eclipse, that these are the two edges of the portal transition, perhaps, or whatever you want to call it, the reflections, the reflecting eclipses. And in Leave the World Behind, that's the Get Out eclipse, right? Leave, you should go now. He finally eclipses it. Notice he's looking over his shoulder, again, just like the other one. And after that, you should have left. Now it's too late. And, we said, well, that looks like it's pointing to June 21st, 2020, that eclipse. And then people are like, well, I didn't, we're still in the U.S. and we all didn't die and we're not in bad shape and this and that. Well, that was the ritual event. The reflecting one would be perhaps the October 2nd, 2024 eclipse, which comes tomorrow. And then it's the period after that, which leads to the election period, which then leads to the March 14th, 2025 eclipse, and the catastrophes that seem to be associated with all of these things. Okay, this is where it accelerates. I think, possible in their predictor program. Now he continues. He goes out. Come close. This is fascinating because Donnie Darko's gonna have a shot taken at Donnie's head. Okay, which is important. Which also gives us more confirmation that this 2024 calendar is correct. So he says, "Come closer." It goes out. Notice as he goes out and he's going to fade away into the rabbit. The rabbit is actually in Donnie's head in this transition, which could suggest that Donnie is the buck. Don and the buck are the same in some sense, because of and perhaps why it's also represented in the film as some sort of a possibly mental illness being represented by Donnie suffering some sort of psychological problems. But Frank makes an appearance with the Buck fade, with the fade transition in which he is inside Donnie's head. Possible identity of the Buck and Donnie suggested here to golf course. We also have a hole, possibly another reference to the eclipse. Okay. But what ends up happening, he gets this 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds mentioned. That's when the world ends. That would be basically the end of the month, which if this is pointing to it, the collision between these 2 months where we have this collision. And then you would have the election cycle period and everything comes immediately after that when the world ends. Now, Donnie says what or why? And now we go inside and it's pure white noise. Okay? And we're going to see at this point what or why, something like that. I don't know what she says. And I think he says what? And I think the hint here is what's happening. White noise, the end of the U.S. finally. And then we're going to see the engine fall. It hits the house. It's a shot taken at Donnie again because it goes to his bed. Mom and Dad wake up. See? The lamp falls behind him. The books are all falling. Everybody wakes up. They're startled. And everybody's afraid. It went into Donnie's room too. They find that out the next day. And then we go to the golf course in the morning. We see sun. And he says, sun. And he says, sun a second time. There's 2 suns. That's the sun, and that's Sirius, the little sun. The second sun, that's what they call it, which is why the dog days of summer are so hot when Sirius is not visible in the sky because it's up there with the sun. There's 2 suns. That's how it was understood in the past. And so you have sun, 2 of them. And he says, who is it, Don? There we have the eclipse. Now we've got the eclipse in this. Now we're back. What the heck's going on here? It's Eddie Darko's kid. I'm sorry about this, Jim. He's just a neighborhood kid. Yes, he was sleepwalking. Dumb joke. Excessive laughing over the dumb joke because he is pandering to him. He's sort of like a celebrity religious figure like the Pope. And watch out for that drool spot. Also gets in trouble for pedophilia and things later. And he says, Jim, are you all right, son? And he looks down. He sees that he wrote with the marker the days until the end and time until the end. But where were they? He was sleeping by the hole. Let's stay off the links at night. I'm sorry. Now watch this. In the script, movie script, Donnie is curled up, asleep on the green. A golf ball lands on the green and rolls up within inches of his head. What are they representing? And it's implied because they're coming up to the green. The ball was hit to the green while he was sleeping there. What was happening? It was a shot taken at his head that missed again. And so we have Donnie having a shot taken at his head again. I think this was all part of the big plan for a long time. And I think that, again, confirms the Donnie Darko period is the October 2nd eclipse in the 2024 year, in the year when the shot's taken at Donnie's head, that sort of thing. Okay, we're looking at that. We're in this period now. Now, if we continue with Leave the World Behind, I'm trying to move quickly. We're going to get a lot out of this as well. This was a film produced by Barack and Michelle Obama, executive producers, Higher Ground Production. It was released on November 22nd, 2023, and also October 25th, depending on where you were at, I guess. And you remember from Donnie Darko, we had the hurricane theme. I think the hurricane theme will come up again. I'm just going to mention it in passing. But in 2001, we had this hurricane. What was it? Hurricane Iris, near peak intensity. Hurricane Iris. At the same time that we had the beginning of the U.S.-led attacks on Afghanistan. Okay, it was overlapping. And I think these wars are often done in relation to the hurricanes. Like we just had Helene, and we have like 4 tropical storms in the Atlantic at this exact moment in preparation for, I don't know if it's related to their magic in their minds or what they think they're doing. I don't know. But I have a whole video on that if you go watch that from the Donnie Darko series. I'm not going to get into it too much. But what I think is happening, what is happening in Leave the World Behind is we're going to see the same story of Donnie Darko. We're going to see it begin in Leave the World Behind with November 16th, November 2016, the election. and we're going to enter the unstable tangent universe when you leave the the calm and secure and serene and wonderful days of the Obama administration, who owned the White House, and the occupier comes in, the white family, takes the White House, and leads to an unstable tangent universe that, if we don't get out of these Trump MAGA years properly, we'll see the end of the United States and the end of the world. Okay, you enter the tangent universe, you go through this unstable tangent universe, and you're going to come out of it. And if you look, here's the Donnie Darko clock in the White House. They go to the house. It's a White House that is owned by the black family, allegedly. There's some debate about that. Some reasons to suspect that, but that's the way it's shown overall. And the white family, Clay and his wife and kids, Archie and Rose, they go in here and they rent the house. They occupy the house beginning at 11:16 on the Donnie Darko clock. And they're going to have that night the black couple come back and say, "This is our house." And I'm not sure why or how or whatever. They're going to find that out. And at the end of the film, when it's 11:16 on this clock, the girl, who is called Donnie, like a little Donnie Darko or something, wandered off, and she went to a different house to hide in a bomb shelter. And it was at this time she turns in, goes to the bomb shelter, and she's the only one we have any indication of being safe at the end of the film. The one who, when 11:16 returns again, is in the bomb shelter. Now we're going to get into details. Let's look. So Leave the World Behind opened up with, no, I'm really out for blood this time. No, really. Heard they was sleeping again. Say it no more. This is a rude awakening. Kicking the door back. Back and I'm better than ever before. Don't get it mistaken. I'm ready for war. When I'm done at the scene, I won't leave anything. You won't know who was involved. And you get hints of Illuminati stuff later. This is they're gonna say I joined the Illuminati. I got demons all around me. Tell me what they know about me and all that. Heard they was missing me while I was gone. I smell the victory. Back up on top, and it's where I belong. So it's like a return to power at the left, and it's going to be, I think, pointing to sort of that The Hunt film idea. We're going to see some persecution, and there are a lot of different themes about slavery in this, and in the early United States, like Exit 76, Point Comfort. That's where the first slave ship landed in 1619. 20 to 30 enslaved Africans landed at Point Comfort, and they were on the White Lion ship, which we're going to see in a minute as well. Now, I'm going to review Leave the World Behind a little here, because it's going to help us understand what's going on, and I think where we're headed, because these events that are unfolding are going to unfold. They're going to try to keep it looking relatively normal, I think, until the election day in the U.S. After the election, things are going to start to get worse, I think, relatively quickly. But the real problems escalate after March 14th, 2025. Again, I think I'm not a prophet. I don't know. I'm just putting the pieces together the best I can. But that's what we're going to review this. So here we have the White House. They go in the house 11:16. The white family is going to take the upper deck. It's like a ship. It's like a slave ship. That's why they have the water up here, the windows, lots of natural lighting, the decking. Okay. And just like this hurricane theme, we have barometers on the wall, and the film takes off when the barometer switches into this key-like circle drive that, as they drive around, it turns like a key. That opens the whole thing up in the film. Now we enter the unstable tangent universe, properly speaking, because now things get sort of messy. Okay, things get weird. Okay, it's like a key, and we see a key later in the film that'll turn, open, and they go in, and then you get this a lot of this art from the Civil War period. Okay, and you even have a 7-4. I don't know if that points to something like July 4th. I don't know, but they go to the beach. And after that spiral barometer dropping, which could represent a hurricane, which could be even Hurricane Helene being the starting point indicated for this Donnie Darko sequence, we end up we see the White Lion ship, which we just talked about as the first slave ship in the United States that brought the first African slaves in 1619, shows up and grounds here because of problems with navigation systems and satellites. Even looks like a shark attack. You almost have like the Jaws appearance here. We saw shark attacks a lot in IPG2 hinted at. Now, it's after this, when the chaos happens, that we see unusual behavior beginning with deer. And the unusual behavior with the deer begins with two, a parent and a child. Okay? She sees this, and it's shortly after this that we're going to see George, G.H. Scott, and his daughter Ruth, the black couple, come to the door and say, "This is our house." And this behavior is the hunted becoming like the hunter, losing its inhibitions or fears of people. And it's coming and becoming more aggressive. And it's representing the black community and minority community, especially the community that was enslaved in the past, as a group that is finally going to rise up. Think of it as like the left, because they associate that. The left associates the minority populations universally with their ideas. And so it's like the uprising of the left and the woke or whoever against their oppressors. And they're going to come out as the hunted against the hunter. And that's why these two are represented here at first, because it's right before we see George or GH and his daughter Ruth show up. They're both doing the same thing. So we get this transition shortly after this. We go to the night, and what time is it? It's 11:16 again. It was 11:16 when they showed up. Now it's 11:16 at night. Now we're getting the day is representing a mini version of the unstable tangent universe. And they're playing Jenga, and the Jenga stack's going to fall in a minute. Okay, because that's the collapse at the end of this sequence of the second of the November election. See, the first election was November 6, 2016. It was Trump versus the Democrat candidate. Now we get a second one in 2024, where Trump, as the outsider again, is trying to get in against a Democrat opponent. And in this one, we get the repeat in a sense of 2016. But if it doesn't end right, you're going to see the end of the United States. And that's what the Jenga tower falling is going to represent. But they're going to see that while they're playing that, 11:16, up here comes the two deer. If you want to think of the black couple of persons, not a couple in a relationship, it's a parent-daughter. But like the deer, a parent and a child. And they show up, and they're like, "Hello, we are, this is our house." And what we get is the symbolism here, again, is of the uprising or revolt. There was a revolt on a ship, the Little George, on June 6th, 1713. 96 Africans held captive on the slave ship revolted against the ship's captain and crew. She's got her 96 on, taking control of the entire ship. The captain of the ship was Captain George Scott. In the film, he introduces himself as George or G.H. Scott. Okay, so we have George Scott and the 96 showing up. And they're going to revolt from the bottom of the ship, lower deck, to the upper deck and try to take the upper deck. In the film, we already saw the white couples in the upper deck of the ship. Now, George and Ruth, GH and Ruth, are going to have to go sleep downstairs. And that's which looks like the inside of a lower deck of a ship. Let me see. I'll get there. Where's that? I'm going to just skip ahead for a second. No, I'm not going to. We'll get there in a second. Everybody can remember that. All right, and they want to come in, talk, and he says, Arch, you'd sleep through the atom bomb. Conversation's not a problem at night. That's okay. And they continue having a conversation about a blackout, and that he's coming up with excuses for why he came back there. He's telling them things that turn out to be not exactly true, and they're going to sleep downstairs. He's offering to pay them to stay in his own place, and they're going to sleep downstairs. She's bothered by that. Why are we going downstairs? She's uncomfortable that she doesn't know are there. It's a blackout. He's going to go over. He says, "May I?" He has a chance at this point to get a gun, but initially he touches the gun, but he goes over to the money. He's moving out of the way to get money. I think he touches the gun. I can't remember if he touched the gun, but anyways, the gun is there, and he has access to choose the gun or the money, and he chooses money instead of the gun at this point. Later on in the film, he pulls out a gun on Danny. We'll see that. But so the gun eventually comes into play, but money resolves that issue as well. So they go, and he's going to stay for, offers to stay for $1,000 to sleep in his own basement. And now she's going to ask some questions. She wants to know, who is this guy who showed up? And right when she's got him, and there's a problem that makes his whole story look suspicious. You know, she's going to ask right here. She's wondering where his wife is. And she says, could I see your ID? And he's like, oh, Amanda. And she says, it's a fair ask. You're a stranger showing up in the middle of the night, and my kids are upstairs. Of course, I understand. And he goes to reach for his ID. You're not going to believe this, but I left my wallet in my coat pocket, which I checked at the symphony. Okay? That's suspicious, right? There's supposed to be red flags right there. It's like, what? You don't have your ID? You came here, you don't have you claim to own the house, and you can't even prove who you are? That could be pointing to the problems with Obama's identification, citizenship, and all of that stuff. And also could point to something coming where maybe there's going to be issues over eligibility or over, basically some problems that are being revealed with the left and corruption and so on. And instead of actually addressing it, what happens? The crisis. We get an emergency alert blares at that moment to turn away your attention from the real political issues going on to something that's going to distract from it. Okay? And she's pointing to the screen, the TV, and we see the national alert and so on. Okay? And we get these numbers. 10 channels are representing probably dates. 10:04, that was an actual emergency alert test. 11:4 is the day before the election. 11:6 is the day after the election. 12:2 is something in December, possibly. But anyways, they're watching. There is a serious threat. And they're wondering what could have done this. And they're speculating and so on. And he says, I think you should stay here tonight. So he gets through. He gets to stay, even though there's some real problems, because some major event distracts from something that rendered him ineligible to be in the house. But he gets to stay in the house. So maybe, for example, there's alleged fraud in the election again. And maybe there's a reason to think Kamala is not eligible or not able, she didn't win or something like that. But she gets to stay in the house because some major event in the world happens, or in the U.S. happens, or some crisis that makes it impossible for the transition of power, or makes it seem, just distracts people from the real issue, and she sneaks in, or they get in, whatever. Okay. So, okay. How did I get back to there? No, that was just a mistake, I think. And so they're going to sort everything out. Things always look different by the light of day, I guess. Self-help cliches are rooted in some truth, hey? So he's being optimistic, positive. They've worked this out, right? So it's all good news. And at that point, we have the collapse of the Jenga stack, which is the metaphorically collapse of the U.S. being represented after the election. Okay, that is the leave the world behind Donnie Darko scene. Now, when they go downstairs, you see how it looks like the lower deck of a ship, right? You're in the belly of the boat. Okay, that is again on the slaving ship, the African slaves being represented in the lower deck, the ones who are going to do the uprising and go against the people who are in the upper deck. And he says, I'll take the floor, you take the bed. And they look, and he's going to the channels to see if there's been any updates. 11:2, 11:3, now we're 114, but 11:4, we are the day before the election. 11:5 is the election day. And here's the conversation. They stop before the election. We need to get them out of here. We need to get them out of here. We're not going to do that by scaring them. So they're coming up with a strategy to get rid of them. And he says they need to think things are going to be all right. I didn't include that slide. And she's like, things are going to be all right, aren't they? And it goes to eerie music, which means no, they're not. They're not going to be all right. The lead up to the election, they're trying to maintain the illusion of stability, peace, of no threats, that this is pretty innocent and harmless, that there's no danger, when there is. Have to, even if they need the emergency alert system in some major crisis or whatever to make it happen, they need to get the people out while giving the impression that they're not doing anything bad. Okay? And so we need to get them out. We're not going to do it by scaring them. We need to make them think things are going to be all right, even though they're not. That's the idea. And the issue is some satellite attack on satellites, which disrupted communications. And I just want to point out again that SOS song. If we do see that sort of thing, that could be an indication we're close to, a major World War III style attack. We'll get a 5-minute warning for divine intervention with the satellites falling. Prepare for ascension. Under mind control, we'll be practicing our politics, defending our policies, preparing for apocalypse. Don't let the hungry serpents see you. No, 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 no. Okay? So when you start getting close to that, you're in a real dangerous period of time. Then we get the flood section, and this is where we're getting close to the end of the film. And they're talking about going to shelters, and they have this conversation between George and Clay's wife, but it's not why you came here. Why I came here involves what happened to me a few years back, and he talks about this client who is one of the most powerful people he's ever met with, works in relation with the Pentagon and so on. Okay, defense contracting. And eventually this guy has talked to him about how he's going on a trip and what kind of trip. And then he turns to me and says, just my annual meeting with the rest of the evil cabal that runs the world. And he tries to pass it off as just a joke. And at this point it gets serious. Yesterday, before the symphony, my friend calls me up, no scheduled appointment like he usually does, just calls me out of the blue and wants me to move around some of his money. And we're talking some big numbers even for him. And as we're getting off the plane, I asked if he wanted to grab a drink. He tells me he's going away for a while, and I joke back to him, "Oh yeah? You hanging with your evil cabal this weekend? I thought that was only during the winter solstice." But he doesn't laugh. And he always laughs, even with bad jokes. And all he said was, "Take care of yourself." Almost as if he felt sorry for me. Ever since, I haven't been able to get that out of my head. Okay? And he's going to say, well, there's no real cabal. There's nobody in control. But the fact is, later on, he's going to say, some people in power, want us to fight each other. In other words, there are people doing this. Okay? Now, if I continue, we go to, there's another one of those noise attacks in the film, and they've now lost power. Even electricity, not just cellular blackouts and satellite blackouts, they're losing power. And they're in the bed. And Ruth, the girl, who's the little Donnie Darko, is having a hard time sleeping. And he says, there's the story. Someone tells the president, in West Wing, the story was about a man who lived by a river, and he hears on the radio that the river is going to flood the town and everyone should leave, but the man doesn't go anywhere because he prays every day. He knows that God loves him and will save him. But then the flood actually happens, and this guy, a rowboat, sees the man and says, "Hey, come on, I can save you." But the man tells him he isn't going anywhere. Then the helicopter comes flying by, and the pilot lowers the ladder, but the man tells him he isn't going anywhere. After that, the man drowns in the flood, and so he goes up to heaven, and he's really angry at God, and he tells him, "I prayed to you every day. I thought you loved me. Why didn't you save me?" And God says, "I sent you a radio report, a rowboat, and a helicopter. What more do you want?" What's this about, Rose? I think I'm done waiting. Rose is going to get up at night or early in the morning. She's going to take her bike, like Donnie Darko, and disappear in the middle of the night. And she is going to the shelter, a bomb shelter, to be saved. She recognizes we're at the end. It's over. Okay? Now down below, we see in the lower deck of the boat again, G.H. Scott and Ruth having their conversation, and they're going to mention that Rose is like little Donnie, and they're also going to talk about the danger coming, and that's very imminent. And then it's an important and at an important time in the film. It's sometimes good from my back. Yada, yada. What do you mean by that? What I mean is, oh, if the crap goes down, do you trust these people that are in our house? We already know the wife has no chill. That boy was sneaking pictures of me by the pool. That little girl keeps staring into the woods like Donnie Darko. There's your Donnie Darko reference again. And I'm pretty sure the husband wants to F me. How do you know that? Doesn't matter. My point is, I don't trust them. I'm not going to let anything happen to you if that's what you're asking. I'm asking for you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out easily to anyone, especially white people. Even mom would agree with me on that. I got it. Do you? Because we're sleeping in the basement of our own house for the second night in a row. Just what exactly was the point of letting them back into the house? It was the right thing to do. And she says, and that right there, that's what's going to screw us in the end. And then we go to the perspective from the moon, allegedly, with the U.S. flag there, and you see an eclipse happening from the perspective of the moon, which means a lunar eclipse, and it goes total. So we see a total lunar eclipse just from the perspective of the moon rather than from the perspective of Earth, and that would be pointing to the eclipse after the election, I think, March 14th. This is your probably pointing to the pi eclipse in 2025. And we see a lot of pi predictive programming, March 14th, 2025. See pi shot. Then we got that there. We had pi in the Legend of Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings or whatever. See 3, 1, 4 came down from the top. 3, 1, 4. That's not even a possible combination of sides on a valid die, whatever. And then it comes down as 3, 1, 4, and this point shows up, and then the 5 show up simultaneously after that. So you get 3.145, 5, which is the beginning of the number pi. Okay, and we get that in sequence again, related to a lot of the conflict that happens. So this, I think, is pointing to March of 2025, probably, and afterwards. Now, that is when they wake up. Rose is gone. Archie's teeth start to fall out in weird ways, and he's going through a health crisis, and we go to the last one and leave the world behind, and he says, I'm telling you, looked everywhere, she's not here, they cannot find her. Meanwhile, they've got another crisis to deal with because Archie is going to vomit blood and whatever, and they need to get him somewhere to help him. They can't get him to the hospital, so they have to take him over to this Danny guy's house. And they're preparing to take him over to Danny's, and Ruth is worried because GH is disappearing. No, you can't leave me by myself. He says, it'll be okay. Dad, we talked about this. You cannot leave me here by myself. He's sick. Don't you see that? Dad, you will never come back. Don't you see that something is happening? It's happening right now. Whatever it is, it's happening to Archie. It's happening to all of us. You can't leave. The world could be ending out there. See, this is giveaway what's happening. That's why I want you here. Take out your phone. Come on, take it out. Set a timer, 1 hour. See, the end happens in an hour, right? And in 1 hour, it's all over. Okay. And this is the final hour. Set a time, 1 hour. I'll be back. It won't work. It will. There's no choice. And now, just like Donnie Darko, we go to a new spiral at the end. Okay, we're getting the final spiral. Okay, and things fade into the spiral scene, and they go into the shed because they're looking for Rose. And here we're going to see the deer symbolism again. Makes it even clearer. See, we got these leaves up here. Those are deliberately set up their position to look like antlers in a minute. You'll see. Pay attention. It's kind of interesting. It's cleverly done. There. See, she's going to move into this position under the antlers, and she's going to stay there. So there it is. She's going to be hunted into that position, like the hunted. Deer being like the hunted. She is now antlered. And they're going to have this conversation with her in antlers until she finally fights back. See, they stop yelling at me, and she's going to separate from the antlers. And at this point, we're going to go and we're going to hear wall thuds and animals galloping, and we get the attack. The deer are going to surround the shed. The hundreds, probably, of them. Okay, surround the shed to come after them. Okay, at the same time, we're going to get a parallel set of scenes where we're going to see a conflict between the president and the state of Texas, Danny, who's got his Lone Star State hat on, his Dallas Cowboys hat. Okay, and we say off the porch and by your vehicles. What can I do for you? We're just checking on you. Sing if you're here, if you're okay, yada yada yada. We're from the city. Well, that's a lucky break for you and your family. Imagine what a crap show the city must be right now. I gotta be honest with you, I'm surprised you guys are even out. We came because my son needs help. He's vomiting. He lost his teeth. They just fell out. Can't explain his teeth, huh? Um, it's got to have something to do with that noise. You know something about the noise? Well, it's not all that dissimilar to what happened in Cuba a while back. Microwave weapons, they called it, produce the kind of radiation that can be beamed through sound. Some people lost their teeth there too. Outside of that, the only thing I know for sure is that's not a lot of information. There's not a lot of information going out. I assume it's a war. That's the Havana syndrome. You can read about that. That was tested. Some weaponry. It was tested probably in August of 2017 and around there. Okay, the beginning of one, anyways, the war. They've been saying there was chatter, and they go on. What do you mean chatter? And it's like Clay said, his son isn't well. We need the medicine. He's unwilling to give it to him. And what I got's not your business. And the tensions rise between the guy representing Texas, I think, and the guys representing the federal government, especially the left-wing political figure. And here's your separation of the single star and the doomsday clock, right? Lightning going out of this event. And you also saw that in the Shattered Union trailer, separatist movement. California's governor declares independence. Texas also declares independence. We saw in the Civil War film, which was released this year around in April at the time of the eclipse, that the so-called Western forces of Texas and California were getting a theme. And so here's your Texas hat. When the world doesn't make any rational sense, I can still do what's rational, which is protect my own. What you do is your business. I thought I was doing the right thing by bringing them here. Now, if you have some medicine that can help them, we can pay, say $1,000, and so on. But anyways, well, let's see. And while that's happening, they switch back and forth. Here's the bike path for the Donnie Darko bike that Rose disappeared on, and the deer are going to come and surround them as she wanders off a little bit. You're in a difficult position. I get it. I would do anything for my family. So that's what I'm doing. I'm locking the doors. I'm waiting. I'm getting out my gun. Other than that, I don't have any answers for you. See the deer showing up? Ruth, it's bike tracks. I'm going to go back into my house. I'm going to say goodbye and good luck. You come out again, you're welcome to stop by, but I can't offer you much more than a conversation. I suggest you try the neighbors, the Thorns. They did a basement conversion on the down low a while back, no permits or nothing. A buddy of mine worked on it. He wouldn't even show me the plans. Now you ask me, that's some rich talk for doomsday bunker. Come on, Danny, you can't desert us like that. Haven't you been picking up on what's going on out there, George? We've all been deserted. Okay, there she's getting afraid. See all the deer. We're going back and forth. The tension between the deer and the people is also the tension between the state and the federal governments. It's representing the Civil War and the uprising of those who are going to go on the offensive that usually wouldn't. Okay, I would like you off my property now. We're not going anywhere. There they are. The intensity, it's intensifying. She's screaming, trying to give a stop. They are not responding. I promise to get this boy's mother some help. And the only thing you're helping him to is a quick death. Okay? Find him to the hospital. You're bluffing. No, I'm not. Screaming. Hold on. It's not de-escalating very easily. And then all of a sudden, we get... He's begging and offers to pay, and they finally accept it. And then the deer scatter at the same time as the other issues resolved. They're parallel events representing the same thing. Some sort of a division in the United States, chaos in the United States, uprising, and so on. And they scatter when? Was it because of anything they did? No. They scattered because of what they see in just a second when they look out and they find that there is a massive attack of some explosions going on in the city. Okay. And at that point, we go, here's Donnie Darko and his bike, or here's Rose's bike at the Thorns. At the Thorns, with the house here. Yeah, Thorns. And she goes in. She's eaten up. There's her 11:16 clock again. And then she goes and looks and goes to her bunker. Down there, she sees there's an emergency alert. White House and major cities under attack by rogue armed forces. Elevated radiation levels detected near multiple population centers. Seek immediate shelter. In other words, it's here. That seems to be on or around or after the March 14th eclipse, according to the film. So this period of time we're looking at, and she then is the one who's going to live comfortably down there with all the food she needs and everything and survive watching the show she'd been wanting to watch, and she gets to end happy, right? While everybody else is out there dying. Now, if you look at the whole timeline, then what do we actually have? We see that we enter the period of division at the April divide, April 8th, 2024 eclipse. It seems tranquil or peaceful or easygoing at the beginning until the shot taken at Trump's ear. Then things start to get messier. Then we get to the October 2nd, 2024 eclipse, which puts us in the 28 days of an unstable tangent universe. Things get real crazy during that period, probably in the Middle East, maybe with the wars, who knows. The United States is entering its swan song period. It's the final lead up to the election. They're going to try to convince you that things are normal, that things are okay. Once it gets suspicious that maybe the left doesn't win, they're going to have some sort of crisis or chaos that distracts people from it and allows them to stay in, which seems harmless enough, but actually leads to the collapse of the Jenga tower and the end of the United States. And so, and again, I'm not doing this left or right, vote Trump thing. I think everybody is in on this in power right now. This is all a big show, okay? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Don't fall for the whole left-right narrative. But my point is, the way they're representing it is as the left doing this. This is how it's unfolding, I think. But either way, the left get to stick around, whether in the basement or upstairs, who knows, but they stick around in some way, and it causes the collapse of the Jenga tower. And that then leads to all these crises in the following year and maybe beyond. All right. So that's, I think, where we're at in the timeline. I think we have to pay attention to what's happening in the Middle East. I think we need to watch what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. A lot of these things are intensifying. With the Olympics, you saw the Ukraine incursion into Russia, and now we're seeing strikes in their ammo depots being destroyed by alleged drone attacks, which probably actually NATO strikes, and so on. So that's what I have. Hope that sort of gets us all caught up, and thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share Sports Channel, and have a great day. Stay safe.